Greetings, Crocoduck Army. So what kind of injustice is worth forming a movement over? Ultimately, most of you are here because you agree with me on either religion, politics, or both. When I first started watching YouTube videos over 10 years ago, Christianity was actually much more firmly entrenched in American life than it is today. I've been an atheist all my life, but I'd resigned myself to being permanently in the tiny minority on the topic. Atheists would get bashed by any number of religious figureheads or politicians because there weren't enough of us to really respond. Atheists became more visible and accepted thanks to YouTube and other social media, and we're a much larger demographic in the country now, getting bigger every year. Gay and trans people were more hidden than they are today, and with a lot more rights today than they had before. In that fight, the atheist community, full of straight white guys like me, was clearly and vocally on their side. So why are we not united in fighting racial injustice? The fact that different races are treated very differently by police as a whole is something I suspect that most people already know. This differs, of course, by individual officer and by police department, and there are plenty of good ones of both types, but more than enough bad to constitute a huge problem. What gets lost in these weekly or even daily incidents of officer-involved shootings that make the headlines are the numerous other ways in which treatment is different. If you have black friends who are willing to talk about their experiences, ask them if they've ever been stopped for driving while black, or because they look like a suspect they're searching for, or because they had a tail light out. Put all this together and you have many decades of grievances against their treatment by police. It's starting to come to a head now because in the past, the police were simply given deference in court, and if they said that's what happened, then that's what happened. But now everybody's got a video camera right in their pocket. A large and growing amount of video footage of unarmed people being executed by the police is now out there. Some cover-ups involving government officials trying to stop the public from knowing about police shootings has been exposed as well. This has incensed many Americans of all races, and the Black Lives Matter movement was formed to try and fix this problem by introducing more accountability around deadly force, body cameras, and transparency in officer-involved shooting investigations. There's been real progress in some cities on these issues because of this pressure. Recently, there were 2 attacks on police that resulted in several being murdered in Dallas and in Baton Rouge. Both of the killers were on record as saying that they didn't think that what BLM was doing was sufficient, and decided to turn to violence. So it was not BLM that was advocating killing cops. On a side note, the Dallas shooter was actually killed by a remote-controlled bomb after negotiations broke down, in what was basically the first domestic drone strike. I've been surprised at how few people seem to be troubled by this. So now the question is, how should we treat BLM in the atheist community? If this kind of thing were disproportionately happening to atheists, we'd be justifiably upset. If you think it's okay to treat an entire race like criminals because of some crime statistic you can cite, then maybe you'd like to get pulled over on a regular basis for nothing and see how fair that feels to you. Treating a whole group like the worst individuals in that group has been a problem in the atheist YouTube community forever. Some think we're smarter than the average person, but we seem just as prone to this error in logic as everyone else does. Every time I point this out, I'm given a litany of reasons why, oh, this time it's different. I've seen a couple of videos in the YouTube community with a fairly reasonable analysis of what Black Lives Matter's goals are, but a lot of YouTube atheists have made videos against Black Lives Matter too, so opinion seems to be split. One video simply spliced together about 2 minutes of footage of marchers chanting violent slogans 3 times in the past 2 years or so, and none of the hours of footage that exist of entirely peaceful protests to help bridge the divide between police and their communities. Then he called BLM a terrorist organization. It's the most intellectually dishonest hit piece I've seen in a long time. I'll link the videos in the info bar, but remember, this is not about personalities, it's about ideas. There were a couple other people who made poorly thought out videos about it too, and I already gave them all my feedback directly in comments, so this should be no surprise to any of them. When it comes to BLM's tactics, who they are disrupting and why, commuters, colleges, LGBT events, political events, and more, I think their targets are often misplaced. Their message gets off track and they lose sight of their goals, but they're a new organization with an informal structure, so this is bound to happen. If we want others to see atheists as people who will come to the defense of those who are being treated poorly, let's help them draw attention to it in ways that we think will help. Even if we don't support BLM's tactics, calling them terrorists or telling black people to stop the murders in Chicago before we'll bother to help them, or telling them simply all lives matter or blue lives matter with no solutions makes us no better than the white people carrying signs in the 60s saying Negroes go home. Are we as atheists willing to speak up for changes? Or is it just cooler not to care?